Let's take a look at the stadiums Qatar has managed to build before the World Cup 2022 starts.
The 2022 World Cup will be taking place in the football juggernaut that is Qatar.
Oh, that is a good way to start a video, right? That is the biggest backhanded sort of diss that I've ever heard. It is not a juggernaut of football at all.
A nation that might not have had much in the way of stadiums a few years back, but it does have money to burn. So every stadium that will be used at the tournament bar one has been built specifically for this World Cup. With that being said, here are the FIFA World Cup 2022 stadiums.
It's amazing for a country so small. I think they've got about 5 million people, has been able to produce this many stadiums of actually, from what I hear, quite a high standard. It's just funny because the stadiums are so close to each other. Oh, wow.
Al Janoub Stadium. The interesting thing about the venues at this tournament is that they are all inspired by something to do with Qatar or the Middle East in general. Some of the inspirations are very obvious and some more subtle. The inspiration behind this stadium is a ship of some sort.
Water.
And yeah, there are some nods to that here and there, including the ocean-like pattern on the seating, and the fabric retractable roof, which doesn't look all too different to the sails of a boat.
That looks like a nice stadium. Nice and compact. Good views all around. That does look quite good.
The roof is obviously not made for the rain, but to keep the players and spectators out of the sun's heat. Speaking of the heat, this and all the other stadiums will be cooled using solar power. Even the fully outdoor stadiums are air conditioned, which is great.
Wow.
The woman that designed this stadium, Zaha Hadid, has sadly passed away. She was a bit of a legend in the world of architecture, and she's done a great job with this one. Khalifa International Stadium was the sole pre-existing stadium I referred to in the intro.
I've got a feeling that these stadiums are going to look quite unique, quite arty, lots of different shapes and patterns. I think they might look quite cool. But yeah, this is the stadium that was already existent.
It served as the country's showpiece national stadium and actually opened in its original form way back in the 70s. The stadium and the country have come a long way since then. I mean, they used to lock up people for being gay.
Still do, don't they?
Well, the stadiums have come a long way at least. This stadium was basically completely rebuilt in the mid-2000s to become what it is today. It'll be the only stadium in the tournament that isn't football specific, as it was built to host track and field events. So the spectators aren't as close as they should be, but it's not the end of the world, it's still a pretty good stadium.
See, I've got quite strong feelings on stadiums that aren't designed for the rectangle sports. Stadiums like this, when you're watching football, you want to be as close to the action as possible. And with stadiums like this, you just cannot be. Having that big track around the pitch, no, that's not a good thing. You want to really be on top of the action.
Ahmed bin Ali Stadium. This one might look like a more conventional stadium from a distance, but if you look a bit closer, the exterior is covered with a decorative metal screen, which is reminiscent of the patterns used in local architecture, just on a much larger scale.
Oh, wow.
There's also more LED coverage on the exterior than at Times Square. Probably. Don't bother fact-checking that. As for the interior, well, it's nothing too far out of the ordinary, but it does feature some rather nice artwork, if you want to call it that.
That is
I believe that's a depiction of Rod Stewart there on the seats. Interesting choice, I guess he's popular in Qatar? Education City Stadium.
That reminds me a little bit of the stadium in Johannesburg, if I remember rightly. What would that even replicate? What Considering the guy said that all of the stadiums are meant to kind of show off something from the area, I don't really know what that's meant to be. Looks a bit like an Amazon warehouse, if I'm honest.
This one is supposed to resemble a jagged gemstone, and it does more or less.
Does it?
It doesn't quite have the same glimmer as a diamond by day, but when the day turns to night, the stadium shines bright.
I think all stadiums need to do this now. They need to have the lights on the outside and inside, because it really adds a sort of a dramatic, atmospheric, real amazing aura and atmosphere when they have this. This is something that needs to be done at all stadiums. If they can do it at St Mary's, for my team, Southampton, that would be amazing.
As the name might suggest, it's located in some sort of education-related mini-city. I think there are actually 8 universities here, or will be soon, so that's good, because education makes the world go round. By that I mean before education the earth was flat. Anyway, the triple-tiered seating bowl looks stunning. I love that colour scheme.
Oh,
El Tumama Stadium.
wow.
I think the inspiration behind this one is the most obvious so far, at least if you're familiar with it. It's one of those Muslim skull caps, the name of which I can't remember off the top of my head.
It does look like that cotton material, doesn't it? And what you'll see with all these stadiums is there is serious coverage on top as well, isn't there? Because of the heat, trying to keep the cool air in. Wow. These are really cool looking stadiums. I know it was probably built with slave labour close enough and awful human rights. They did do quite a good job.
Because I'm not wearing one on the top of my head. Yeah, the resemblance is undeniable, it's spot on really. I'm not entirely sure why you'd want a stadium to look like a hat, but it does. Like many of the stadiums at this year's World Cup, the capacity will be greatly reduced after the tournament. Qatar has less than 3 million people. They simply don't need more than one big stadium. Gafia, that's the name of the hat. I just remembered. Stadium 974.
This one, weird name. This one uses all of the shipping containers, I think. As you can see, they just use loads of shipping containers, which is a cool idea.
I have heard people say that this stadium's named after the number of construction workers that died building it, but relax, it's not quite that grim. It's simply the number of shipping containers used in the construction of the stadium, which is a fitting building material given its seaside location and the fact that the stadium is actually temporary. Those containers will be shipped off to developing countries and reused. To be honest, that seems a little ambitious. I'm not sure how you could possibly ship such large metal objects. Come on guys, it's not happening. Anyway, despite its transient nature, it doesn't leave a lot to be desired.
It's a bit boring.
It's a fine stadium in its own right. Al-Bayt Stadium.
Can you just imagine? See, that's a car drop-off. I was thinking to myself, this area here looks like a really cool place to see people, thousands of people walking up to the stadium. But actually, I don't think that's what that's for. That looks like it's for like car drop-offs and pickups. Or even taking the buses up. I don't know.
Can you guess what this one's supposed to resemble?
No.
It's a traditional Arabic tent.
No. Oh.
Yes, apparently they like to camp, yet they arrest anyone that sounds a bit camp.
This guy has done a very good job with his humour in this video.
Anyway, I think they've done a good job at mimicking the traditional homes of the nomads of Arabia. Like all tents, it has a fully automated retractable roof, and underneath that roof there are even some hotel rooms with a view of the field.
Oh, wow.
Which I guess is technically glamping. No, but the interior does look quite remarkable, especially like the way the decorative pattern on the seating continues its way up to the underside of the roof. And finally, the biggest stadium, the host of the
Nice.
final,
80,000.
a venue that is already iconic because they named it as such, Lusail Iconic Stadium. Despite being the tournament's showpiece stadium, it might be my least favourite. It reminds me a little of Cape Town Stadium, a previous World Cup venue.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good shout. It does look a little bit like the Cape Town Stadium. It does, doesn't it? Sort of. Or no, I think the first one looks a bit like that, possibly. No, actually, the first one did look Johannesburg, and that one does look, because the first one was more rounded.
A previous World Cup venue, just with an over-the-top shiny gold exterior.
I like it.
The shape of the roof is also supposed to resemble a saddle. Sure. The interior is the opposite of the outside, a toned-down colour scheme to balance it out a little bit. It might not be my favourite, but it's still an excellent stadium. All of them are. So, who do you think will win football's biggest prize in 2022?
Not England.
My money's on Qatar because they are the best at everything, especially their government. They earned the right to host this World Cup on merit and merit alone. Oh, you're early. You literally brought the money in a sack with a dollar sign. Wow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, cheers, mate. See ya. Sorry? What is that? Oh, you want me to... Okay. Qatar may have its issues, but we can all agree that it's not as bad as Saudi Arabia. Okay, that's it. Okay, bye.
Well, nice way to end it. I think there's going to be a lot of videos like this with lots of digs to Qatar. And actually, to be fair, Saudi Arabia's got all these controversies as well because the wrestling WWE have been doing events over there. Anyway, the stadiums, actually, I think the stadiums are pretty cool. They are, I said this about other stadiums, but these stadiums really are works of art, aren't they? The architecture to achieve these magnificent stadiums is brilliant. I'm trying to think which one was my favourite. Which was my favourite? It's not the first one. It might have to be this one. Trying to find the name of it. I'm going to go with that one because it looks quite cool. It's that rectangular shape which fits the sport. I love what they've done overnight as well. Yeah. Fair play to Qatar for getting these stadiums built, looking incredible. Now it's the question of how full will they be? With how many people actually attend? We shall see, won't we? But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for some more World Cup content, and I'll catch you next time.